Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Up Recap here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, Voice of New Media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and on this edition of Vegas Hockey Up Recap, where we break down every single game of the 2024-2025 season, we are going to be discussing the most recent game involving your Vegas Golden Knights. And this was an interesting one, to say the least. So this is going to be a really fun episode. I'm looking forward to talking about all of this here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and this is here on PRConnectionsRadio.com. Now, to start out this episode and to really do this recap correctly, we have an injury update for the Vegas Golden Knights, as it was announced that Victor Olofsson has returned. So Victor Olofsson, who suffered an injury a while ago, he's missed a certain amount of games. He has been, over the last couple of weeks, in Henderson on a conditioning stint in the AHL. So it was announced that Victor Olofsson is back with the Vegas Golden Knights. He was called up from that conditioning stint. He was put on the active roster and would be in the starting lineup for tonight. And we'll cover the starting lineup in just a little bit. So it is good to see Olaf here in the starting lineup once again. First couple of games, he was having a real spark on that middle six, scored a goal or two. And it was, really good to see him on that team. When he got hurt, kind of was interesting to see how the middle six kind of shaped up during that time period. But yes, it is good to see Victor Olofsson back in the starting lineup and being on the Vegas Golden Knights roster. So that is kind of the breaking news to begin this episode, that Victor Olofsson, number 95, he is on the active roster now, and he has been called up from the Henderson Silver Knights. And the only other part was that Callahan Burke, who had a good stint with the Vegas Golden Knights, had a couple of games to really show what he can do. With Victor Olofsson getting called up, somebody had to get called down, and that would be Cal Burke. So, he's back in the AHL, number 68. And it'll be interesting to see what he does. Maybe he'll try to get called up once again if injuries do happen and kind of stockpile towards, February and March. But for Callahan Burke, him being sent down to Henderson in the AHL, that is part of the pregame notes for your Vegas Golden Knights. And we'll get back and we'll just address the starting lineup in just a second. Now, heading into that starting lineup, on the first line for your Vegas Golden Knights, you have the duo of Ivan Barbashev and Jack Eichel, 25 games, and we have pretty much seen no difference between those two in terms of them being swapped in between certain lines. But Ivan Barbashev and Jack Eichel, and then they are being joined by a breakout star in Pavel Dorofeyev, averaging half a goal per game over the last 24. On the second line, you have Tomas Hertl, Nicholas Waugh, and Keegan Kolesar. So like I said, over the last few weeks, this has been the second line for Vegas. And Kolesar and Waugh already having that chemistry. They've been on the fourth line for a couple of years now. On the third line, you have Brett Howden, William Karlsson, and Alexander Holtz. So Brett Howden, William Karlsson, those two have actually gelled chemistry-wise very well ever since William Karlsson came back from the injury to begin the year. And then on the fourth line, Tanner Pearson, Cole Schwindt, and then welcome back Victor Olofsson. And on the defensive pairings for the Vegas Golden Knights, you have Noah Hanifin and Alex Pietrangelo. On the second defensive pairing, Shea Theodore and Braden McNabb. And then on the third defensive pairing, you have Nicholas Hague and Caden Korzak. So in net for the Vegas Golden Knights would be Ilya Samsonov. So that would be the starting lineup for the Vegas Golden Knights heading into this game. And this is them being at home at T-Mobile Arena and taking on a team that they have not had much interaction with up to this point. Now, getting into the game itself, and this was not a good expected ending for the Vegas Golden Knights, as this would end up being a first period to absolutely forget if you were a Vegas Golden Knights fan. To start this out, Clayton Keller, he would get it right past Ilya Samsonov, and this was just, based off of a really bad turnover in the neutral zone by the Vegas Golden Knights. Barrett Hayton, He would get it over to Clayton Keller, and he would get it right past Samsonov. It would be a 1-0 game. And then, not even a few minutes later, Alexander Kerfoot, on a shorthanded opportunity, he would get an unassisted goal and make it a 2-0 game at the halftime point of period number 1. And then about a minute later, the scoring would continue, but not for your Vegas Golden Knights, as Nick Schmaltz would have his first goal of the season, assisted by Clayton Keller, who had scored the first goal of the game. And then you had Barrett Hayton with his second assist. So overall, it was a good game for Keller and Hayton, but Nick Schmaltz, his first goal of the season. And then, and about 2 minutes left in the first period, a young rising star in Logan Cooley, he would end up scoring, making it a 4-0 affair in the first period. And the reason why this happened is just so many turnovers in this game. I mean, the sloppy passing, the puck possession was awful. And when it came to the Vegas Golden Knights, this is going to be a game where they're going to go watch film tomorrow, and they're going to study all those turnovers. They're going to look at those passes from left to right and try to determine how bad those were. And more importantly, when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights, I have no doubt that Bruce Cassidy tomorrow during morning skate and during practice, he is going to push them a little harder than he normally does. Because you having that many turnovers and that sloppy display of performance, it just really was awful. In the neutral zone, there was 4 or 5 times where they were in the neutral zone and they just gave the puck right over. And then the visiting team went on the other side. They just took care of business on the other way. Now, this also has a lot to do with terrible goaltending. Ilya Samsonov is not proving to be a quality backup. Ilya Samsonov so far is streaky, unlike Aiden Hill, where he will have, 3 good games and then 1 bad game. We have seen with Ilya Samsonov, it's kind of 2 and 2. He will have 1 good game and then 1 bad game. 1 good game, 1 bad game. And, this is really coming off his last performance where he had a really solid job, and he actually did relatively well for the Vegas Golden Knights, allowing 4 goals in the first period. There was 1 goal where Ilya Samsonov was completely out of the net, and not to steal a quote from Steve Dangle, but, if you're a goaltender, tend the goal. Ilya Samsonov, just not a good performance tonight. This was a very bad situation for Vegas, and this is what you don't like to see from the Vegas Golden Knights. Something that also was very apparent is I don't know if everybody on the roster went out partying. I don't know if, them being on the strip, there was an occasion in the afternoon that caused them to lose their focus for tonight. But the Vegas Golden Knights looked sluggish all night. They looked lethargic. They looked tired tonight. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, this is just a game that you pray gets forgotten about. Kind of similar to Toronto about a few weeks ago. This is a game that your Vegas Golden Knights are going to try to be as hard as humanly possible to get over. Now, after that first period, after a 4-goal given up in the first period, the second period would get a little bit better for Vegas as Nicholas Hague would get into a fight with Lawson Cruz. And, he would try to set the tone for Vegas. But, it wasn't that much action-packed in terms of the goals in the second period, but it was action-packed in terms of penalties between these two, as you would have 5 penalties in the second period. You would have, Tomas Hertl, he would trip somebody. You had Ian Cole, he had an interference call on Jack Eichel. You even had a Pavel Dorofeyev tripping penalty. I don't know what the amount of trips that were going on, but hey, we need to keep some of our balance there. 3 tripping calls for Vegas in this game. So, really not great for Vegas. Third period, there was 2 penalties on Utah, but that was really about it. And in that second period, the nail in the coffin for Vegas as Michael Carcone, he would be his first goal of the season, assisted by Alexander Kerfoot. And then the sixth and final goal of the game, it would be Nick Schmaltz. So after having his first goal in the first period, he would have his second later on in the next period. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, this was just not a good game, a lack of display, and really just nothing in terms of a nothing burger. This is what this game was. Now, the only spotlight that I'm going to sit here and say is that your UNLV Rebels won at Allegiant Stadium. This is the only bright spot I can say officially as somebody who is a UNLV Rebels football season ticket member, as somebody who was at Allegiant Stadium and someone who actually was at this game. This was a lot of fun seeing the Rebels keep the Fremont Cannon in that scarlet and gray. And this was a fun game, seeing UNLV take care of business and beat Nevada Reno. But, that was on the Strip at the same time as this hockey game. And UNLV looked like they had more energy and more tempo than Vegas did all night. So this was an unfortunate situation for Vegas, and hopefully they can do better moving forward. Now, player of the game is really hard to do for a 6-0 loss for Vegas, but Nicholas Hague showed hustle. He showed heart in this game. Not only did he get into a fight, but he also had some good hits. He also laid in his checks. Nicholas Hague would be your player of the game. Now, here's the win-loss record for your Vegas Golden Knights. This is still Pacific Division where Edmonton and Calgary and LA are still doing what they're doing in the Pacific. But for your Vegas Golden Knights, this is really what it's going to be doing moving forward. Now, I do want to remind you here on Vegas Hockey Up Recap, where we cover every single game of the 2024-2025 season. This is going to be, first of the month, game taking on Edmonton. Then you have Anaheim on a back-to-back. So, you're going to have some really competitive games moving forward. Dallas is going to be 2 days after that. And then you're going to also have the Winnipeg Jets and then the Edmonton Oilers once again. So, yeah, this is going to be about the next 5 or 6 is going to be crucial for your Vegas Golden Knights. And, hopefully Aiden Hill will be in net the next time. We're still waiting on the update on Mark Stone. Is he going to be skating with the team? Is he going to be practicing with the team? Of course, we will give you all the updates there. I also will say, Ben Hutton, he has that injury. Zach Whitecloud, for undisclosed reasons, has not been the starting lineup. That's why Caden Korzak has been with Nicholas Hague. And overall, when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights, there's really not much positive to say about a 6-0 loss. Yeah, not fun. Now, I will say this because I'm a man of my word, that when it comes to the next episode of Vegas Hockey Up Recap, I will be wearing a Utah Hockey Club shirt because they beat your Vegas Golden Knights so badly. I have family in Utah. They're going to supply me with the shirt. But I will say that next episode, when they do that recap show, I will be wearing that Utah Hockey Club shirt, kind of just to pay off a bet and be a man of my word, because I have family members in Utah, and they had bet that they were going to beat Vegas. I thought Vegas, being one of the best teams in the NHL, was going to get it done. So, $20. That's going to be $20 to make sure that it gets here on time. So this is going to be a fun episode. I thought this was going to be fun doing this recap show, when in actuality, this has not been fun at all. And I really don't know what else to say. I mean, this was just an episode that happened. So hopefully it's better, going up against a playoff caliber team. And Edmonton, who, you're going to see probably in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs go the way that is probably going to go. your Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton, that would be a round 2 matchup for the ages, considering that Vegas had to beat Edmonton in the second round when they won the Stanley Cup. So, like I said, we got about 5 minutes left. I'm just going to ramble for 5 minutes. I hope that's okay. Just going to ramble, just talk for a little bit. Henderson Silver Knights, there's some good players right now that are contributing there. In juniors, Matthew Chatterford, he has had a really good start to the year out there in juniors. ECHL, the Tahoe Night Monsters in their first inaugural season. Really fun to see some of the highlights there out there in Tahoe. If I ever get a chance to maybe go and see a game of Tahoe one of these days in the long-term future, that would be fun, I will say, to see an ECHL team, because the last time I saw an ECHL team was the Utah Grizzlies about a year or two ago, and at the Maverick Center out there in Utah. So, at least it was good to see Victor Olsen come back, though. That was good. I'll say Jack Eichel, Ivan Barbashev, and Pavel Dorofeyev. I wouldn't mind seeing that on the first line until Mark Stone comes back. Tomas Hertl. Tomas Hertl has done a relatively good job this year. As you can see, I am purposely stalling because I got 3 minutes left. This was supposed to be a recap show, but, I got 3 minutes. I'm just going to stall for as long as humanly possible because I know I got to get to a certain time limit. And, when it comes to this episode, I really got to sit there and say that I think Brett Howden and William Karlsson being on that pairing together, that's going to be, something that we're going to have to watch. Good line chemistry. Nicholas Waugh, King Kolazar. We've seen the chemistry there. I kind of think that Ilya Samsonov being the backup goaltender is not going to be the reality. If you're going to give up the amount of goals Ilya Samsonov does, he's not going to have a long-term future in Vegas. I guess that would be something you got to say. I know it happened a while back, but hey, also congratulations to Brett Howden on the contract extension. Happy to see that for him. Two more minutes. Stay hydrated, folks. I know I should be drinking water, but still stay hydrated. Has anybody ever been, by the way, to the Vivint Arena in Utah? The Vivint, smart home arena. I actually got a chance to do a tour there when they was doing the preseason game. I actually got to see Utah and LA during the preseason because I was with family in Utah about 2 months ago. That was fun. I really do wish well to the Utah Hockey Club. I know that they are an expansion franchise, and I'm using that in air quotes because they did get certain things from Arizona, but then there's certain things they had to get brand new, and they had to make certain trades and get certain signings and acquisitions. But deep down, I kind of do wish Utah well. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to be an all-time favorite when it comes to, hockey teams. But I will say that since I have family in Utah, it would kind of be cool to see a Utah hockey team do well. Kind of wish they would pick a name. I mean, the Utah Blizzard or the Utah... trying to think of what other names. Utah Outlaws. Is that a name? You could do that? Okay. But, this is Vegas Hockey Hub Recap. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. This is PR Connections Radio. And I appreciate the last 3 minutes for anybody who actually has been watching this long. Me just ramble about whatever. And until next time, go Knights, go.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.